Welcome to the Rule 62 Sober Coach Podcast. This is Mark Castle, and welcome to today's episode. I have to tell you, this is going to be an interesting episode because I'm going to talk about being okay with expressing irritation and actually being irritating and rude, and being okay with that, and also not apologizing for it either. And I know that this is kind of against the grain of how a good little recovery goody two shoes should be. However, there are moments that I think it's perfectly okay to be rude and irritated and say what needs to be said and not apologize for it. And there is a very thin line between the two. And it still does also require that I look at my behavior and what led up to this. So I'm just going to go right into it and tell you my little story. This actually just happened a few minutes ago, and so this is a good point to make a podcast episode. So this morning I got up, I did my prayers, but I didn't get anything else done because someone was celebrating an anniversary that I really care about, and so I ended up going to that, and which is not my normal morning routine anymore. And it was very crowded, busy morning, and there were a lot of people, and I made it about halfway through the meeting, had a few cups of coffee, uh, apparently too many cups of coffee. And then I went and did some shopping, and then I went and had breakfast with a friend of mine. And at breakfast, I ordered a large iced tea, and so I was pretty much flying on caffeine. Still am, by the way. And I hadn't done my meditation work either. So I got back and I wanted to go to the restroom. And I know this may sound pretty odd to a lot of people, but I live in an RV. And so if I can use the public facilities, I would rather do that than use my own. And so I went and walked over to the public facilities. And when I was exiting, this woman said to me, "You're not going to shut the door behind you?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to shut the door behind me." And it just really set me off. So I walked out and I took a few breaths and continued to walk a little ways. And I just said, "You know what? I did not appreciate that. I did not appreciate that piece of information." And I just walked back and I just said to her, I said, "You know, if you want to shut the door, that's fine. But don't tell me in this passive aggressive tone of yours that I should shut the door afterwards, because that's not what I do." And I turned around and I stormed out and I slammed the door behind me. And she followed me out to apologize, and I just ignored her completely. And you know what? I know I'm a terrible recovery person for doing this, but I really don't care. I really don't care. I will throw some prayers in around it. I'm very clear that it had everything to do with my being off balance from not being able to get my normal routine started. And then on the other hand, I also believe that it has something to do with me needing to express myself, and in as non a harmful way as possible. And I, and you're saying, well, yeah, you took it out on this old woman. Well, I'm as old as she is, and I really just don't care. I just don't care. Uh, I, uh, I mean, I care about her. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it is just okay to express feelings and to express feelings in an angry situation as long as I don't hold on to it. And I know what I'm going to do around it. I'm going to pray. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray for her. And I'm probably going to do some ho'oponopono around it. There's probably a whole bunch of things actions that I know how to take around it. And because at the end of the day, it's about me relieving myself of self. So there we are. I'm not saying that I'm proud of myself, but what I am okay with is giving myself permission to express that I'm angry, to actually say what's on my mind in as an appropriate way as possible and then letting it go because most of my life, I have been this very nice little appropriate New England born and raised individual with parents from the Midwest. I mean, what a combination for politeness and not expressing who you are. I don't know how much better it could get. However, at sometimes one just has to do that. I'll give you another example, and that is that recently I was, maybe a couple of months ago, I was very upset about whatever it was. I have no idea what it was. And I showed up before a meeting and I a guy that pretty much irritates me anyways, but I've also known this person for like 30 years and so tired, just so tired of his narcissistic behavior. And he asked me something and I just looked at him and I said, just F off. And which, of course, he naturally told me and then proceeds to apologize to me a number of times via text. So I've never responded to any of those texts, nor have I apologized, nor do I have any plan on apologizing. I don't have to be everything to everyone. And I don't believe that I even have to be nice to everyone. But I also can do a few things, which is just step back from situations. There's a woman that I remember hearing very early on in my recovery, and that was she said that what she did was that she figured out how much distance she needed to place between her and whoever was irritating her so that they no longer affected her. And she said whether it was across town or across the country or simply out of one's life. And she then specifically said that she had walked away from her relationship with her dad, and that is what was most appropriate for her to do. And I get that. I get that wholeheartedly. I have to cease fighting everything and everyone. And as I say in my podcasts on a regular basis, I love the fact that everything in recovery is a paradox. Now, everything in life is a paradox, but this topic, this channel is all about recovery. And therefore, I'm just going to say that it's always a paradox. So, yes, I get to express my feelings. And yes, I also have to own that I had those feelings, and I also have to own how they affect other people, and I have to make a decision about whether or not I'm going to apologize or not apologize. The majority of the time I apologize. There's only a rare exception that I just absolutely do not feel the necessity to do so. It's it's quite the study in human behavior. And what I also know is that I can walk away from situations that no longer serve me. And I have done that on a number of levels recently. And I'm very happy and better for it. So if you got anything out of this podcast, yay. You can certainly give me a thumbs up. If you don't like what I had to say, yay. I'm good with that because that means we are in the process of thinking and considering. And thank you so much for listening to the Rule 62 Sober Coach podcast.